Hey! Alright, this is the exciting conclusion of the Three Princes of Serendip. I want to make sure that we've got a pretty good framing up of everything. Things are illumined a bit nicer over here. Well, I have just one other thing I think here to light up the night. Let's put that there. Let's put this here too. I don't know how you can see it, but it's nice and blue and crystal and stuff. Okay, so it's been an exciting story. And this is a very long final chapter, so it may be that we end up doing two parts. I'm not sure. But before we begin, I just want to review what's been going on since the very beginning. So in the first chapter, a stern decree, King Jaiya of Serendip sent his three sons out to look for a formula called Death to Dragons, because the seas around the island country of Serendip had been plagued for many years with dangerous sea dragons. And so the three sons were told to go out and not to return until they had found this formula. They soon learned that an old seer was wandering around. He never spent more than one day and night in one place. Often people heard him mumbling in what they thought was his sleep. Pardon me. Slowly, the princes found clues from people that he had stayed with about this formula. And the first of them was, though the treasure saline be, you cannot scoop it from the sea. And there were others that were reviewed in the last chapter. If you need to look back at chapter 9, you can. But everything up to that point, actually I'm going to reread all the clues that we've gotten so far to the formula. Though the treasure saline be, you will not scoop it from the sea. And often from the sight is hidden such magic not by wishes bidden. One may seek but cannot borrow this mystery lying close to sorrow. And then a lot of adventures have gone on, but the short story is that these three princes have always, every day, brought kindness, courage, and also wisdom into the pursuit of this formula so that they can please their father and bring peace to the land of Serendip. They keep looking for the formula, but they keep finding other adventures and other blessings in the process. They've met a wonderful emperor in Persia, a beautiful queen in India. They have vanquished many different kinds of monsters and different people that had wanted to do terrible things to their friends. And in each instance they've been successful with those three keys: kindness, courage, and wisdom, all three combined. They seem to meet every day with that formula, and it's a pretty good one. But they're just about to find out in the 10th chapter we hope they find out. We've been all the way through this book. They better be successful in their quest, right? This is an image from chapter 9 that I shared with you a bit ago of the bird. It's a golden bird, actually, even though this is a black and white image, with a silver cylinder in which the formula is carried. Now, Athenum is the old man that wanders around in disguises, never staying anywhere too long, but he also transforms into this golden bird with eyes of fire, and he carries on his person this silver cylinder in which the formula is kept. Now, the princes in the most previous chapter, chapter 9, they found the cylinder, but most of the formula had been scorched by fire caused by this other terrible monster. serpent with 3 heads. Now they vanquished that foe, but the sparks that flew from his mouth had caused a great fire in the village of Kuabad, and in that fire Athanasius himself appeared to have been killed. And the princes found the cylinder, but in it they did not find the entire formula, so they were a bit disappointed by that. Then from those ashes up sprang the bird that Athanasius can turn into, and he snatched the silver cylinder back. And they watched him go to a pool that had been created by the tears of their compassion for the city of Kuabad. And he scooped up their tears and put them in the silver cylinder. I have a little cylinder and a tear for the background of our little narration today. This is a lucid tear that I made from paper mache, some paint and a little bit of a bead in the center there and some silver leaf. But this represents the tears of compassion in this story. That's why I put it right here, just so you can remember that that's a very important part of the story. And then this is the closest thing I've got to a silver cylinder, you see. And this is just sort of a representation of what that bird Athanasius is flying around with for chapter 10. And there's some surprises in here that I'm going to show you maybe in the middle or maybe at the conclusion of chapter 10. So just enjoy some of the visual delights that we've got going on here, and I'm going to get right on to at least the first part of chapter 10, The Golden Bird. And again, this is a story called The Three Princes of Serendip. And you might have guessed something about that land, the name of that land, Serendip, that is in our daily usage, a word that we use all the time. I'm going to review that at the end of the story, either in this video or the next one. So, I think that's it for the preliminary statements. You can see that I've still got the mirror of justice way back there in the background also, and then this transparency that's projected on the white curtain there, I'm going to explain just exactly who that is a little bit later too. So it's really an exciting time. Maybe not in this video. If there's a part 2 to chapter 10, because it is so long, that's when I'm going to have some concluding remarks. Alright, so let's get busy with the Golden Bird. As the three princes of Serendip and Princess Padmini, who, as you recall, is also Emperor Valram's beloved Delirama, rode on, the young men were filled with feelings strangely mixed. On the one hand, they rejoiced in the happy news they were bringing to the Emperor Valram. On the other, they had many misgivings because they had failed to find the formula of death to dragons before all but a tiny fragment of it had been burned in the fire at Kuabad. When they neared the palace, Rajasingha, the youngest prince, rode swiftly ahead of the others. This was not only to let Valram know that his lost love, Delirama, had been found, but also to see that all was in readiness to receive her as the Princess Padmini. Okay, gosh, this is exciting. I'm going to sit up just to be more comfortable. In haste to bring his news, the youngest prince was glad he had the privilege of entering the imperial apartments without waiting to be announced. Soon he stood before the emperor and found upon that ruler's face a look of great dismay, and in his hands an opened letter. "Alas," the emperor said to the prince, "even in this abode of gentle loveliness troubles come like swarms of gnats." "What has happened?" asked Rajasingha. "I have here a letter," the emperor said, "from the merchant leader of the caravan which brought Delirama to me. As her foster father he asks to see his daughter again, and comes hither on this very day. Now tell me, what message can I send him?" The third prince bowed very low. "I respectfully suggest that your imperial majesty dispatch word that he is welcome, and, as he wishes, may see his foster child." Valram opened his eyes wide. "How may that be?" "It is my joyful errand," replied the prince, "to inform you that she approaches even now with my older brothers." Then he told the emperor not only of the manner in which she had been found, but also of her own true name, and in a few words of how she had been befriended by the kind people of Kuhabad. Also, he described the dire plight of the village. When Valram learned that his beloved was coming back, he rose, looking as strong and well as a young man, as a young lion. Quickly, he called the Grand Keeper of the Royal Orders, that's Zamis, and in words that seemed to tumble over each other in haste and happiness, issued commands. "My horse at once, the finest apartments for Her Royal Highness, every trumpet in joyful salute, and Kuabad." A cloud of pity crossed his countenance. He said, "Everything they need, the architects and builders of my 7 palaces, let them go to the village and rebuild it at once. As for provisions, we have more than enough in the first 6 palaces. Here too, send a great quantity." He turned to Rajasingha. "Pray show me the way your brothers come with the princess. Let us waste no time." At this, he hurried from the palace and flung himself on a swift horse as if he had never at all been ill. Rajasingha led the way with Valram at his side, followed by a troop of courtiers. So eager was the emperor that soon he and Rajasingha had left the others a long way behind. The two rode swiftly for a distance of 1 parasang, and then Rajasingha saw his brothers with the Princess Padmini coming around a curving path not far ahead. The late afternoon sun sent forth a great burst of glory while it set beyond a distant peak, and as if aware of a moment too precious for sound, the mountain birds were silent. Rajasingha heard only the hoofbeats of the horses. When the two parties met, all dismounted quickly. The emperor, who had been in such haste to meet his beloved again, then hesitated a moment. As if fearing she might turn and run away, he approached her slowly. But the princess ran forward to the emperor, fell on her knees, and bowed her face to the ground. She said, "May I hope your imperial majesty will pardon one who was once so thoughtless?" Valram said, "Is it possible that your royal highness can forgive one who was so harsh?" Then, without waiting for an answer, he took her hand and helped her rise, while her tears of joy fell like gems, shining in the fiery light of the setting sun. When they had all returned to the palace, the sound of trumpets commenced a great celebration. The princess was given splendid apartments and rich robes suited to her station, and Prince Rajasingha dispatched a letter to Queen Parvati of India that she might rejoice too in the finding of her lost sister. And remember, Prince Rajasingha has promised to marry Queen Parvati. So much happiness! But the story's not over. Once more there was music and feasting in the imperial palace and all across the land in honor of the Emperor Valram and the Princess Padmini, who would soon become his wife. Moreover, the 3 brothers received many honors, gifts, and other signs of imperial gratitude. The merchant of the caravan rejoiced to learn of the happiness and high estate of his foster daughter. Hearing how she had been sheltered by the people of Kuabad, he undertook to transport thither in his caravan a great part of the provisions sent by the emperor to assist the people there. Thus the merchant was able to bring them word of the imperial gratitude for the kindness shown to Delhi Rama, and also as her foster father to thank them on his own behalf. As for the 7 princesses, whose thoughtfulness and charm had helped the emperor, each of them, with the permission of the monarchs who were their fathers, consented in marriage to one of the 7 storytellers. Oh, there's so much marriage going on. The royal ladies considered these artists to be princes among men, and loved them as much for their sensitive hearts as they admired them for their remarkable genius. Learning of this happy turn of events, the emperor, who had returned to his capital at Bishapur, was pleased to bestow titles of nobility upon all the storytellers, and gave to each couple one of his 7 new palaces for a home. The 3 princes rejoiced in the good fortune of their friends, even though their hearts were pierced like plump walnuts bored by hungry worms because of their own failure in the matter of death to dragons. So things stood for many a day, until one morning a messenger from Serendip arrived. Welcome always is the one who comes from our homeland, Balakrama said. Though our hearts are heavy with disappointments, pray tell us quickly what word you bring. Both sweet and sorrowful, the messenger replied. I have no letter. Time did not permit me to wait for writing, yet now, alas, we have too much of time. Pray, speak the message clearly, said Balakrama. Riddles only tease our patience. His Majesty King Jaiya, said the messenger, continues ill, and now permits me, nay, has urged me, to find your royal highnesses swiftly, and say that desperately and daily he longs to see his sons. Therefore, because of the great love he bears you, and even though no word has reached him that more than a few lines have been found of that formula called death to dragons, his Majesty calls your highnesses home. Well, this is sort of bittersweet. Although much concerned by their father's illness, the princes rejoiced at his command. Alas, for the happiness I read in your faces, the messenger said, for I have sad news also. The dragons in the seas about our homeland are now so numerous, and worse still, so bold, that no sailor dares put forth across those waters, no ship therefore sails upon them. Indeed, the passage which I made to travel here was the very last, and barely did I reach the shore. Pray tell us more of this, Rajasingha said. From the lashings of the monster's tails, said the messenger, our sturdy ship turned nearly over. So dangerous was the passage that all the sailors on it vowed they would not cross the strait again. Like-minded, too, were all the seamen whom I questioned on the coast of India. As a sudden storm darkens a sun-washed day, his words cast a veil of gloom over the happiness of the three princes. Nevertheless, in response to King Jaiya's word, they planned to leave the land of Persia and at least start out towards their own country. When the emperor heard this news, he gave permission for them to go. But it was only with great reluctance that he could part with the three young men who had done so much for his country and for him. Gratefully, he pressed upon them quantities of jewels, fine brocades, and rare books from his own library as gifts for King Jaiya and themselves. Moreover, as he had done when they left to face the fearsome hand, he accompanied them as far as Kuhabad, now almost rebuilt. Here the emperor and the three young princes were welcomed by the Deccan and all the people. These expressed their thanks with great bouquets of wild flowers. At last the princes bade farewell to the Emperor Valram and pushed on. After traveling for many days they entered India and passed again through the high lands of the Sheras, where first they had heard of Athenicius. Then finally they reached a place on the shore opposite their own homeland. As they looked out over the water, a fearful sight was there. The wide sea strait was so filled with dragons that one could be seen riding high on the crest of nearly every wave. Each had a long and scaly tail which thrashed up billowing foam behind him. All along the shore, every ship had been drawn up on the beach, and sailors stood idly by, shaking their heads in dismay. No wonder even the brave and hardy refused to cross these waters, Balakrama said. Nevertheless, we must reach our father now that he has called us home, Vijayo said. Then let us sail a ship ourselves, said Rajasingha. He's always the brave one. Thereupon, with the aid of the messenger who had accompanied them, the three princes found and purchased the last ship that had sailed from Serendip. It was a strong vessel with a high mast, a yellow sail, and oars as well. But all of the seamen who had arrived on board refused even to put it into the water again, nor could the three brothers find any sailors willing to help. We must launch the ship ourselves, Balakrama said. So the three princes, assisted by the messenger from Serendip, began to push the vessel toward the sea. Meanwhile, a great throng of fierce dragons gathered in the water close to the shore. Seeing this, the messenger said,
Your Royal Highnesses, of what use will it be to launch this ship into the water? The instant we do so, the dragons will tear it to pieces and swallow us too. Then who will see King Jaiya as his tears fall and double in abundance? We do not command you to join us, Rajasingha said, but our father calls us to him, and for us there is no choice but to dare the passage.
At this the messenger, with both relief and fear upon his face, drew back, while the three princes continued in their efforts. Nighttime came, and still the brothers strove, working until the ship was in the water. Then with their horses, led over some rough planks, they went on board. Hardly had they pulled the vessel from the shore, however, than a bold dragon clamped his jaws about the bow. Another leapt up out of the waves, higher than the top of the mast. The horses, lying down with their feet bound together to keep them safe, threw back their heads in fright. There's a picture of what's happening right this moment in the story. Look at all of those sea dragons. They rolled up their eyes, and their neighs of terror filled the salty air. The three princes saw that the leaping dragon was the king of monsters in the sea. Against the moon's bright light was the outline of a crown upon his head, and on his body not only shining scales, but web-like wings as well. Each time he rose from the sea, the creature's dripping sides glistened with water. Then, at the crest of one leap, he spread out his wings, and instead of returning to the waves, flew round and round above them. The brothers were looking at the dragon in amazement, when another surprising sight came into view. Winging out of the darkness and across the stream of moonlight dipped a great bird. Its eyes were like fire, and it carried something shiny in its beak. We know what that is, right? Something shiny in its beak? Yeah, it's that silver cylinder that holds death to dragons. It must hold something, right? What we know that it holds is that pool of tears that he scooped up from the brothers' compassion, the three princes' compassion. So okay, here we go. Something shiny in its beak. For a moment, the bird hovered above the ship. Then suddenly, it dipped so low that the princes could see fall from the container it held a single drop of liquid. As soon as the drop reached the sea, the dragons near the ship slipped under the water. Even with the light of the moon, the night was too dark to see very far. But since the monsters close by had disappeared, the three brothers hurriedly hoisted the sail. Thus they set out through the seas for Serendip. I've just got to grab this real quick. Oh, don't give away the surprise. So, a single drop from the tears of compassion into the sea, and the monsters nearby just disappeared. They fell back down. All right, on we go. Even with the light of the moon, the night was too dark to see very far. But since the monsters close by had disappeared, the three brothers hurriedly hoisted the sail. Thus they set out through the seas for Serendip. Overhead, all along their way, the Dragon King circled in the air. Instead of molesting the princes, however, he flew around and around as if in search of his subjects. The three brothers, wondering at their unexpected good fortune, but fearing the arrival of more dragons at any moment, managed to continue across the strait and reach Serendip before the dawn. In all their course they saw no monsters of the sea except the Dragon King. He pursued them until after they had anchored their ship and were disembarking with their horses. Then he gave a piercing shriek, and rising higher and higher, he flew off ahead of them in the direction of their home city, Anuradhapura. As they started in the same direction, the three brothers, even in the faint light before dawn, could see that the growing things about them all looked dry and stiff. Passing villages, they heard the cries of little children waking from sleep, but even when the approaching day spread a fan of rosy light in the east, no birds sang. Everything seemed strangely silent, except the sound made by the galloping feet of the horses. And that's where we're going to stop. Part 1 of Chapter 10. We're going to conclude with Part 2 in the next and final video. It's just been an executive decision made by the storyteller. So that's where we'll go for now. We'll catch you in the last video. I bet you're going to click on it right away, but if you're going to sleep now, then sleep well. And have a wonderful tomorrow. Don't forget to bring your kindness, your courage, and your wisdom to every challenge you face.